In the past, we've talked about ways to stand out on social media and talking about great content, using the visuals and using specific formatting to make your brand stand out. But one that does get overlooked is voice. And we're not talking about our voice speaking in real life as such, but talking about the way that we might write something. As a consumer, I don't particularly want a brand talking to me as if I'm just a dollar sign to spend for them. I want them to engage me in a real conversation. And so that's where voice and tone comes into that. You need to find a voice for your social media marketing that will help optimize your strategies and your way of marketing your product or service. When we're talking about voice in social media, we're talking about two terms that seem to get interchanged quite frequently. So we have voice and we have tone. And the way that you use those two things together, it can be quite powerful. Voice is basically your brand personality described in an adjective. For instance, your brand can be lively, positive, cynical, or it can be professional. And the tone is a subset of your brand's voice. So that's what adds the flavour to your voice. So there's one voice for your brand. Well, we hope that there's one voice because we don't want your message getting confused or mixed messages. And your voice is actually your mission statement. So it's what you're putting yourself out there as. Stephanie Schwab, who is a writer for Social Media Explorer, devised a 4-part formula in getting your voice correct. You need to look at your character, yourself, because ultimately you are your brand. Are you going to be out there as friendly, playful, warm, authoritative, professional, or inspiring, or a combination of all of those? Then you need to look at the language that you're going to use, and you need to look at that in terms of your audience. So say it was a tech type service and you're going to be talking to other tech heads, you can use a more complex language. But if it's something that you're wanting to have a general consumer that might have a tech problem with their website or their computer, you need to use a more simple language to them because you're wanting to have them come to you. So if you're talking about all this tech jargon, they're not going to understand what you're actually talking about.
And you're going to lose them.
Exactly.
So understanding your audience is
the
really,
most
really
important
crucial.
thing.
Absolutely. And you modify your communication to suit them.
Exactly. So your language can be a number of things. So it can be complex, but it can be simple. Savvy is really important, regardless of whether it's complex or simple. Jargon filled, we try to stay away from that. Again, that's going to depend on your audience. Is it going to be serious, fun, or whimsical? My stuff, for example, I like to think of myself as a fun and an out there person. And if you could see how I look, you would probably know that because I've got really bright colours and everything about me is bright and colourful. So my posts and my websites tend to be quite lively and fun. That's what I want to put across. So once you've got those, you're then able to suit your tone better. So is that going to be a personal tone? Honest is always good. You want to come across as authentic, but is it going to be humble, clinical, direct, scientific? All of these things can change how people will perceive you and your business. And then you need to look at the purpose. So is it to engage? Is that what you're wanting to do? Engage people, to educate people, to inform, to enable them? So is it going to be giving them instructions on how to do something? Is it to entertain, to delight, to sell, or to amplify your business? So they're the sort of things that we need to look at. Well, that's Stephanie's formula. And I think it's a pretty good one to start asking yourself questions and asking others questions about your business and your branding. You need to boil down the values of your business to a few key values. And asking your customers, both older and new, will help you do that. And then you'll come up with a couple of words to be able to use, and then from that you'll be able to get your tone.
And then you need to be authentic to those values to back it up.
And one way is to decide, how do I want to run my business? Is it going to be a social media platform? Is it going to be face-to-face? And I suppose you then instruct your salespeople, go for it on social media, and here's some tips like Belinda's just shared, or go for it face-to-face. And I suppose through social media, the tone can get misconstrued as to providing an authentic message. For example, I know somebody who remarketed herself and she used a silhouette as her icon, and her silhouette was nothing like her.
So you felt that that was a little bit misleading? Maybe?
Yes,
so that
absolutely.
when people saw her in real life, then they immediately felt she wasn't real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But was it something that would appeal to the target market, you see? Because she may have been thinking that.
I suppose it comes down to branding, doesn't it? And whoever is doing your branding for you needs to really know you and find out the real you.
Social media should only ever be used as an invitation, unless, of course, you're doing something like an eBay shop or something like that. But if we're talking about service service businesses, it's only an invitation. It's like an offer to treat with them. So
That's a nice legal term you use there,
that's my
Belinda.
background as well.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, mine's a service business. I don't sell anything online. I put out there and I do many different things. I have a couple of different businesses, but in one of my businesses involving horses, I do about 7 different things in that.
Yes.
So I'll put up there, we can offer this service or we could offer that service. And it's just if that suits that person, they'll then ring me and say, can you come out and check my horse or have a chat to me? They might email me and ask a specific question, which I'm always happy to answer if I can. So it's just generally an offer to bring them in. The big businesses these days are generally hiring social media experts. Someone like me would actually go in and just take over their entire social media content. They need to have a really good look at the business, sit down with the directors or the key business people and find out what it is that they've done in the past, where they want their marketing to go and what they see themselves in the future. And then they need to go and survey their clients or their customers and get their experience. And then they need to build from that. So it can be a little bit expensive, but we're talking about bigger businesses. If you're talking about a smaller business or someone based at home, they can do that just as easy. But don't rely on doing it themselves. I mean, they've got the ability here to grab some tips from the KGB once a month or hit us online, which is great. But if they're still not sure about what to do, it's so easy to make a mistake. So they're better off calling someone that's in this line of work and getting some help from them. It's generally not that expensive. You do talk about an hourly rate, or you could put together a package for them, and it will actually pay off in the long run, because if they make a mistake, they could end their business very, very quickly. If they do have a really good idea of where they are and where they're going, then by all means have a go at it. But if it's not working for you or you've had some negative feedback, then get somebody else to have a look at it and give an outsider's opinion.
I think the other important thing to remember, no matter what the size of the business and whether you've got face-to-face or social media avenues to promote the business, is to keep your brand consistent across the face-to-face delivery, across the social media. And that's why it's a really good investment, I think, to have a social media person do it, because they can ensure that there's consistency. It reflects your values appropriately and what you're wanting to achieve, and the customer never gets confused about what the message is, because you're consistent across anything you're doing or portraying. In terms of developing rapport with someone, because that's really what you want to do in order to have an effective communication going on, because when you develop rapport with someone, which means that you're finding or creating common ground with them, it means that they're likely to respect you and listen to what you're saying because they like you. So you can actually create that, that feeling of clicking with someone. Sometimes it happens naturally, but you can create it. When it comes to voice, and this works for words and body language as well, but think about matching the voice tone of the person that you're talking to, because that's going to help you develop rapport. So if you've got somebody on the phone that talks slowly, don't go talking fast. So you've got to match, the tempo, match your tone. So if they're talking low, do the same thing. If they're talking high, do the same thing. So that really helps in creating, in a subconscious way, if you like, that connection between the two of you. So it's good to be mindful and to get the cues, because it's not just about understanding your own body language, but really leaning in and listening to the non-verbal communication of the other person, and that includes their voice tone. The only sort of disclaimer I've got on that is that if someone's aggressive or very emotional, you probably want to do the opposite to what they're doing to diffuse the situation. So
because you don't want them
I can
thinking that,
identify with that.
that everything's okay.
so you can
wanna-
slow it down.
It's really important to remember with social media that you can be clever and you can be funny, but not for its own sake, not just because you're a bit in love with your own words.
When I set up my Facebook page, there's certain questions on Facebook that asks you about your business and what do you offer about your business, and it actually makes you think about what you are going to offer for your business.
Got to keep it concise and simple.
Oh, it's a great guide. I've come up with some fantastic stuff, and I've seen posts before that are just too time consuming and we're busy and
waffle,
they're not sack, and I just scroll past.
Same thing with
Quickly,
videos.
I've got a few tips for those that are wanting to find their social media marketing voice. So one is use transparency and openness in your marketing, which we've talked about right throughout
Absolutely.
the hour. Openness can be a huge asset with your social media marketing because it's unique. on social media, people tend to put up a bit of a fake front. So to be open and transparent, then you definitely are unique out there. So few companies do share intimate details. So even if you're talking a little bit and not rambling about something, but talk a little bit about your own journey. And I hate using that term because that's very popular these days too. But do talk a little bit about how you're finding things in the business. And if you've had an experience that's just made you extremely happy, pop it up on there. And also thank those customers that make you feel that way. Put that out there.
Point.
So transparency and openness in your marketing. Most importantly, market your business as if you're marketing yourself as a person.
Well, you are your brand, especially when you're a small business owner.
Exactly. So you need to do that. And again, I just can't say enough, be authentic and consistent. Once you do have your particular voice and your particular tone, stick with that. Avoid inconsistencies. Don't force it. People can sense that the minute that it's forced. And do be aware of attempts to be funny because they can certainly backfire on you. Be very, very aware of what someone may find offensive. We did have an incident on the weekend. I was at an event where someone said something thinking it was funny and it was taken extremely as offensive by one of the people that were listening. So there was a bit of a miscommunication there, which you definitely want to try and avoid, especially when you're talking about your businesses. So yeah, don't forget the context and don't have it too busy.